Welcome to the third season of the Ashlars podcast. We are thrilled about our progress and, more importantly, grateful for your support and encouragement. We are going in strong with ever more energy and passion into the third season of our humble little initiative. That is, to show the true light of Freemasonry by being India's first and only podcast on Freemasonry. In this season, we continue to highlight papers by Indian Masons and showcase the wealth of Masonic knowledge and wisdom in India. Additionally, we will also shine some light on various other degrees beyond the craft, with a view to help Masons discover the true joy of being a Mason and expand their horizons. As a disclaimer, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely of the participants and do not represent any official positions, including those of any Grand Lords or constituents thereof. Best efforts have been made to keep the conversation on the level for brethren and non-Masons alike. Hey everyone, I'm very excited to share that the Ashlars now has a sponsor. That's right, I'd like to present to you 7 Elephants Clothing, a brand brought to life by Samsiddhi Ventures LLP. You can get yourself some trendy t-shirts, jackets, hoodies, and whatnot at very good prices and quality. It's headed by Ajay, a brother from my own lodge, and he will be sponsoring a giveaway of an amazing goodie bag to the lucky winners of this quiz. So, what do? Scan the QR code or click the link in the show notes to enter the quiz. We will reach out to you individually once we get our winners. So, the link to 7 Elephants Clothing is also in the show notes, so check them out as well. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome, folks, to another episode of the Ashlars. This is season 3 and episode 10. This is an important, very special episode, I'd put it this way, because we started this season by saying that we will start delving deeper into Freemasonry. And we have touched upon quite a few things, but this is where things get even more interesting. So just watch out for a few minutes and I'll explain why. Hint, there is a giveaway. All right. So with that, let's begin the episode. So I have Rinesh here. We'll be talking about a special degree called the Holy Royal Arch Charter. Now, this is a degree that is beyond the craft. Now, if you notice, especially, among our Masonic listeners, you would know that we have been going on and on about the craft. Essentially, that's the base, that's the foundation, the strong foundation for any Mason to begin their career. However, there are many more degrees that Freemasonry offers for you to begin your journey, enrich yourself, your knowledge, and whatnot, right? And every degree has something special to teach you. This is one of those degrees. And to, just to kick things off, I would say, while the craft tells us about the legend of King Solomon and brings in some amazing stories of different characters in the overall Masonic lore, this particular degree builds up on that legend. What does it build upon? What does it teach us? That is what we'll be talking about. So with that, let me hand it over to Rinesh to unmute himself and talk about this.
Thank you so much, Shishir. And I think first, most important, right? I should actually thank you. The reason is because if it was not for the first instance when you and I spoke about trying to do something on Freemasonry, we would have not reached here. Second, I should obviously thank our listeners, because if they were not asking us these things, or rather probing, like, every time when I used to go for any Masonic meetings, or whenever you go for any meetings, they used to always come up and ask, Rinesh, when is the next episode coming up? And these are our silent listeners who are our supporters. They are not listeners who are going to put up a banner, something, and ask, oh, what's going on? Hey, come on, you guys did this, you guys. We are not here for those accolades. We are here for those, what should I say, words of encouragement and things, right? Like when they say, Rinesh, we learned something from this. As well as, I've also got that message, Rinesh, this was not right what you said. Can you change that? I said, yeah, absolutely fine. I'll work on that one and make sure that, Rinesh, this is something which will add on to your knowledge, what you have actually shared, because this has actually helped me to learn more. And that's how my give and take has actually been from the first episode which we ever started. And today, look at us, we have actually come to the point of discussing more than the craft. Everybody knows Freemasonry is so huge, it's happening.
Yeah, that's very true, and just to add to what you're saying, right? Even my own experience, uh, I've got messages where people have said things like, "Hey, I've been waiting for this and it's come, and I'm very happy about it," and that makes me feel happy as well, right? That at least there's that one or two people who are looking forward to it. At least those are the messages I've got, at least. But even beyond that, whenever I go to the lodge or something, some people come forward and say, "Hey, I joined because I heard your episodes."
We got
It's
one. We got
Yeah,
one person who came and told me exactly, at least I got one person who came and told me
yeah.
this.
So
I was
I got
very
quite a
happy. I was like,
few.
I heard it.
Yeah, I got quite a few where people said, I heard your episodes and then I approached, or someone said, Hey, I forwarded your episodes to someone and now that person has joined. Those kind. So it's fun. So with
It's
this,
nice.
we are also trying to rather let me put it this way. We're trying to bring in, this awareness that
Yes.
masonry is not just the craft alone. There's a lot more to it. And we keep saying this, it's an ocean. Masonry is an ocean, and the more you explore, the more you get to know. So that's where this is coming from. Now, coming back to the whole idea behind this degree called the Holy Royal Hours chapter. What is holy about it? What is the hours? What is a chapter? Everything we are going to get into this string of episodes. So, with that, Rainish, why don't you enlighten us and tell us
Thank you so
what this
much.
is all about?
Yes. So, Shishir, I think we have understood the story where it comes from. We have spoken about craft or the basic blue degrees, the symbolic degrees, the first step which we take towards Freemasonry, wherein we first join. We obviously approach a lodge. We ask them that we would like to join, and all the rest of the stuff which actually happens. And in that, the first degree in the order in our craft is entered apprentice. You join as an apprentice, then you become a fellow of the craft, which is called fellow craft, and then finally you become a master mason, and that's it. There is nothing about this. Let me reiterate: there is nothing about this. This is the structure. It's just a simple three-step. Now, what happens is it's like coming up and saying, "I've completed these. I would like to learn more." These steps, or rather, after this step, it kind of branches out. And one of that branch is Holy Royal Arch chapter. It's not arc, just as I've heard some people saying, it's not arc. The CH is not cur, it's ch, arch. And there is a reason why this is important. Before I jump into the overall significance, let me explain you in a very simple manner what exactly this Holy Royal Arch chapter is all about. In a simple nutshell, it is an arch. That's why the word arch is added. See, in craft masonry, we have learned mostly about the building, the stone masonry, which used to be there, like a basic wall, which used to be created and all of that stuff. In Holy Royal Arch chapter, we learn about the arches. Now, if I have to dwell it down to a basic or rather a necessity stuff which needs to happen is, in the olden times, anybody can build a wall kind of concept started. Obviously, not anybody, but a mason will be able to build a wall. Now, once when you build a wall, what next? I'm not going to have four sides wall and then say, wow, amazing. Then what is the purpose of it? What is supposed to be inside that, right? So there I need a gate, like a road, a door. Now, to make that door, obviously, I can just create it in a simple manner, but the pressure needs to be on the top where the bricks or the stones used to be kept in a manner and everything. Now, obviously, you give that kind of a pathway, and obviously, you give that kind of what is it called a support system so that it stays there. What is the natural support when it actually happens? Now, imagine, forget anything and everything. You try to take two sticks, three sticks together, keep them like this. The stick on the top needs to stay on some place, right? And then on top, obviously, you will have all your bricks and everything kept. Now imagine you're trying to build this with stones. You do not have that kind of stick concept. You have stones. Now that means a long, really, really long stone needs to be kept at that place, like a Stonehenge style, right? With all that stuff. But there will be a place where it might break, where it might fall. So the natural design for such an gateway or for such a doorway is an arch. And mostly for those architect students who would understand this, or the civil engineers who are looking at it, or even an engineer, mechanical engineer who has been reading about stress and every other aspect of designing these structures, right? They will understand why an arch makes sense. That arch is what Holy Royal Arch is actually all about. If I want to give it a philosophical sense, we can obviously open up the, what do you call it, the Pandora box, I would say, or a lot of information comes in, right? You have a basic structure. Now you want to know about the structure. You so created an arch. And that's exactly what this arch is all about. So please understand, it is not arc, it's arch, and there is a reason why it is called arch. So that's what I wanted to add first.
So, just to further build on that, right? I mean, as you were explaining that, what came to my mind was the egg shape of an egg, right? If you see the shape of an egg, it's a very fragile object. If you hold it in the wrong way and if you drop it, it'll break. But if you apply pressure in the right spot, especially on the arch section of that egg, it can actually support a good amount of weight, surprisingly, you know. And if you see, the basic construction of the arches, it is designed in such a way that the pressure is not direct in one point, but it is rather distributed, right? Now, why are we delving into this seemingly technical, mechanical, or architectural aspects of it? Because, again, keep in mind, guys, masonry came out of the fact that there are specialized people with special skills who wanted to keep those skills under wraps. It was not easy to learn. Not anyone and everyone could acquire that knowledge. Even if you told some people to build a wall, maybe not everyone could do it. That is one. The other thing was, out of that work, they found meaning in a very deep manner, and they were able to add learnings of life to that, right? Juxtaposing all this construction work tools, whatever, into life's teachings and learnings, right? So that is where we are trying to draw the parallel for you, make it more relatable. Now, with that being said, let's delve a little into the story of the Royal Arts. Like, what is this degree about? What is the story, or those things? So, Dinesh, if you want to add to that.
Yeah. So again, coming back, what is the craft all about? I think you just spoke about the whole aspect of the first temple which was created for God. Now, again, I'll reiterate this, and I have been saying this quite enough number of times in all the previous episodes as well, at least some of them. Why that structure was considered? Why King Solomon's temple was always considered the first structure? Freemasonry, in its form, when it was developed or designed, or whatever you want to say, was designed in a continent, Europe. The most commonly available topic to discuss, or rather about stuff, book was the Bible. The one structure which was created for God was the temple, the first temple which was created there. And that is why that temple has been given that kind of importance. See, there have been cases, or might have been cases where instead of this, we would have taken up some other stories and learned some more moral values of it. Some people came and told me, why not Ark? Which, by the way, just to let you know, there is something related to that too. Why not Noah's Ark? We spoke about. Why did we not speak about the Tower of Babel? Why did we not speak about I don't know. There are so many of them. There are so many of them. Yes, all of them good. Everything is good. We can take up values from this. But why craft actually builds on that is because it was the first temple. It is the temple where so many people came together. And if you read more and more stories about it, if you expand your knowledge, right, more from the aspect what is written in the Bible to what it actually means, you will realize that it is not just a simple story. It is more than that. It is more than that because it actually also talks about different people coming from different places, coming together and building a temple for a god of that area. Because the people, Phoenicians, do not even work on that, but Phoenicians are the ones who actually gave that idea of the whole arch to the builders of King Solomon's temple. They don't even believe in that concept. They had their different concept altogether. But they were okay because that is work. I think they literally took work is worship kind of concept for them. Now, if I bring that, what next? We have spoken about entered apprentice, fellow craft, and master mason. Now, there is all those who are part of these three degrees will understand there is something which then gets missed out, something gets lost, or some concept is there. I won't be able to expand on it till you actually start reading. And I want you guys to read rather than we giving you or rather giving you that information. And by the way, for even for non-masons, you just read about it, you will find enough and what do you call it? Enough and more materials which are available to explain you what those concepts would be. And just concentrate on the concept because that's more theory. As I think we have said it, you can read how to drive, but you can't drive till you actually are behind the wheels. So these are the two different aspects. But still read. If you are able to read, please do read. But anyway, now something has happened. We have basically kind of come into a place where master mason degree has got, and we have like, oh, there is something which is missing in this. There is a small element which is missing, and it's only for those folks who are actually been gone through that degree. And if you're still an entered apprentice or fellow craft, hang on, become a master mason, you will understand. It is that portion which is where from where we jump into. And by the way, I'm using the word jump. We do not traverse. We do not walk. There is a big gap over there, and we are going to cover that gap somewhere in future as well. But we are jumping from that portion to this portion, which is called the Holy Royal Arch. Now, Holy Royal Arch, the interesting aspect, it talks about the second temple when it was being built. Again from the Bible. The first temple is built. We all know what happens. It's been destroyed. Everything happens and all that stuff happens. Some 500 plus odd years later is when the second temple is being constructed. By then, there are most of them obviously have been taken captives, they have gone somewhere. And I think, Shishir, you might know more about this than I do. But that's where the story starts. The story starts about how this building of the second temple is being happening. And the story elaborates on how certain things are going on. Like, oh, you know what, guys, let's work on the second temple. Absolutely amazing. Start work. While working, oh, wow, I got something. I found something. Oh, this is something interesting. See, forget what they found. Forget what exactly is happening. It's for the listeners who are non-masons, do not, but finding something in a heap of dust, what happens to you? You go to a beach, assuming you have a metal detector and you're just checking around, and you find something metallic, assuming it is priceless. Okay, maybe it's let's just say, for example, just for let me be just hypothetical. No, let me just go wild with my crazy ideas. It might be a piece of a space instrument which would have fallen down with something written amazing. Aren't you going to be excited? You are. Imagine a world where nothing exists in this section. We have more and more dystopian and stories which we get to see on Netflix as well as other channels, right? Recently, I've been watching something on Apple TV, and in which a show called Silo is going on, wherein they try to find some information from the previous world, which, by the way, the current existing world doesn't have any idea. So when they find that, they are like excited. And guess what he was holding? This guy is holding a Pez dispenser. I have four best dispensers in my house. I don't consider that too important, but he is considering that important. And that is very interesting. You know why? Because it is from that world which you have no idea. Same thing, that concept of that story in Holy Royal Arch also talks very similar to that. They find something. What they find, how they find is for you to explore when you join. But they find something. That finding is the interesting piece. Shishir.
When you were talking about the beach, right? uh, what came to my mind was, um, so I was seeing this one strange video talking about one guy who found a very weird lump of something, looked organic, but had a kind of weird smell to it. He was just curious, okay? He took it and went to some local shops, and someone saw potential in that and bought it from him for a very paltry sum. Okay. And later on, I don't know, it changed hands and whatever. And turns out it was something that a whale vomits out. When a whale eats a squid, most of the squid or the octopus is, very, is fleshy, but it's the beak which is the hardest part in that animal, right? So that irritates the internals of a whale, and the whale sort of covers it with some body fluids which it pukes out later and it solidifies. Now that lump is actually very costly because it is used to make perfumes and stuff out of it. Just imagine the journey, right? So whatever that person found, it could have been anything. Like in your case, you said pest dispenser, and in this guy's case, something really gross, maybe. But see how it adds value or how people extract value out of it. And I think that is the essence of this whole thing, right? It doesn't matter what you find, even if it could be a pest dispenser, maybe it will give some sort of an insight into people of, or on how something can be done or what can I learn out of this? A pest dispenser is a very simple little mechanism. It's just one tube, and then on top there's a hinge which covers and uncovers an opening out of which the pests come out. Now imagine a world where they are still figuring out basic mechanics. This would be a game changer for them. It's like discovering
Exactly.
quantum physics, something, right? So the point here is whatever you find, and again, I'm not just delving on the degree here, but I'm just trying to pick on the learning that we get from this degree. We'll elaborate on the learning a little later as well. There are a few more points I want to talk about, but just to give you guys one little tidbit rather here is that no matter what you find in life, what you get out of that finding, that learning, that object, that is important, right? It could be a family heirloom, it could be consolation prize, whatever. What value are you deriving out of that? That's what is important. That is what adds value to your life, right? So with that, let me delve into a little administrative aspect, so to speak. And I'm bringing this for a very specific purpose because I want to educate people on these degrees as well. So just like craft, there are different kind of officers in a lodge. Why we have officers in a lodge? Because a lodge needs to function. Yes, there is philosophical things to it. There are deeper meanings, learnings, symbols, yada yada yada. All that is there. But a lodge needs to exist in this real world, and the real world is materialistic for a reason, right? It has to transact, it has to exist, it has to have things which makes sure that it abides by the laws of the land. So there are people to ensure all of that. There are different, offices. That being said, this degree is no different. There has to be certain people who administer the lodge, who rule the lodge, who keep the lodge in order, so to speak. So we have three principal officers here, namely Zerubbabel, Haggai, and Joshua. So, Rinesh, if you can help our listeners understand by drawing a parallel with who are these people, why are they named like this, and drawing a parallel with the craft lodge, because I'm sure a lot of at least Masonic listeners will understand when we draw a parallel with craft, right? So, over to you.
Yeah, at least that's the idea, right? That you're part of craft, you're part of the first three degrees, and you've been going to the lodge regularly. So obviously you will try to draw. So as you said, the first person is Zerubbabel. He is equivalent, or he is some very similar to what we have a worshipful master we whom we call in our lodge. So what does the worshipful master do? The worshipful master takes care of the entire proceedings of a lodge. Whom does he represent? King Solomon. Why King Solomon? Because King Solomon was overseeing the entire construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. He was actually the one overseeing it. Zerubbabel is actually a governor, okay, not the king. So just imagine how different it looks like. Zerubbabel was actually a governor and appointed from by Persia. He's a Persian appointed governor for the land of Judea. And he was the one who was overseeing the rebuilding of the second temple. Now, if I want to, I think we can write papers, and I think there are some many good papers written on how the chain of command has gone from a king to a governor. We all know governor is simply a no, common person who's looking at some of the specific region. The king of Persia still remains. Cyrus is still there. He is taking care of a lot of stuff which is happening in the entire kingdom of his. Judea is one of his piece, but he has appointed a governor, and that governor said, let's start working on the second temple. Let's start working on the temple because the first temple got destroyed. I would like to build another temple. And that temple would be for God, the God which they follow. Okay. So that's it. So Zerubbabel was that. He actually got help from two other folks. One, I'm talking about in Holy Royal chapter. So one is Haggai. Haggai, and I'm again, instead of trying to remember all these things, I've written down my notes for these things. Haggai was a prophet. Now, he was supposed to go and talk to people. And he was the one who was recruiting folks, or rather urging them to let's rebuild the temple again. See, the first temple has got destroyed 500 odd years. No, that entire, whatever generation has to go, has gone. Whatever next has to come has gone. Everybody's gone. People, this is a fleeting glimpse in their stories, I would say. This became part of stories. Now, whether it existed, it didn't exist, nobody even knows about that also. But it is part of your story. Now, suddenly that story has come to the point wherein this guy has said, let's work on it. And that's when Haggai comes into place. And he also talks about how the future is going to be better. Why? Because obviously people will come together, they will actually take care of things of each other, they might be able to pray in one specific place, take care of the belongings, we might go back, all that story. See, it's common across, no matter where you go, whether you go to South America and listen to the stories of the people coming back to their land or to a remote part of Mongolia, you will always have that kind of a concept. So this is the second guy. A second guy, obviously, as I said, calls these people. And then finally comes a third fellow, who's also very, very interesting. His name is Joshua, and he is a Levite, high priest who led one of the many efforts which were required to rebuild the temple. So, along with Zerubbabel, Haggai, and Joshua are the three folks who actually look into this entire construction. Administrative wise, also is the same. Craft, we had King Solomon, we have King Hiram of Tyre, and we had Hiram Abif. Okay, these are the three folks. Here we had Zerubbabel, we had Haggai, and we had Joshua. Now, the most important point in all these things, if you are a member of chapters across India, especially the chapters which are part of the Supreme Grand Chapter of India, this story resonates with you. Why? Because that's what we have learned. Similarly, the story resonates with all those who are part of Supreme Grand Chapter of England. Basically, the ones which are still available, which are there in India. It resonates with you as well. It also resonates with the Supreme Grand Chapter of Scotland, which is also there in India. It does not resonate with those Irish chapter brethren who are members of Irish chapters here in India, because the story is different. And Shishir and I we are going to cover Scottish and Irish in a separate episode. The reason is it needs an episode. It is not something which we can just nicely just casually say it. No, it needs an episode. Right now, as I said, we are concentrating on the Indian and the English aspect of it, the ones which are available in India, and these are our three main folks. Along with them, like the way in our craft, we have deacons. The deacons are the ones who take the candidates along and explain them the concepts, ensure that they are always taken care of. We have somebody called as principal sojourner. So principal sojourner, we have a first assistant sojourner, we have a second assistant sojourner. They are sojourners. If you search for the meaning, you will understand what it means. But understand the story. These sojourners are the ones who are guiding the candidate towards understanding the entire degree in this order. And that's what they are. We also have, obviously, secretaries. We have other folks. We have our treasurer, everything. The secretary here is called a scribe. And he literally scribes. He writes down all that information. So that's what he's supposed to be. He's a scribe. And there are other aspects which, when you go through this degree in this order, you will automatically understand what that means. It obviously draws parallel again from the whole rebuilding of the Second Temple of Jerusalem, what is happening and how and that's where it kind of ends.
That's all, folks. We sincerely hope that you liked our episode and got a glimpse into the fascinating world of Freemasonry. If you have any queries about what we have shared on the podcast or about Freemasonry in general, please check out the show notes for links to the Grand Lodge of India's website, or write us an email, which is theashlars@gmail.com.